And welcome to the family meeting. It's Sunday. This is Richard Chu sitting in. That's really sitting in. I'm sitting in by myself without Eric because Eric is, as he would say, on the lam. So we're patchworking it together today. But welcome to the family meeting. I've been away the past couple of weeks. Happy to be back, and Eric is away this week. So what happens when that happens is that Devin and myself have to piece things together a little bit. So we might be sawing some of our normal intro music and outro music and commercial breaks and all that good stuff. But Devin's got the board, so he'll make sure we stay on stay on pace rather. The number is 773-763-9278. As normal, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on, I believe, Facebook Live. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on TikTok. And at thefamilymeeting.com. So go to our website, tfmradioshow.com, and give us a like, give us a look, hang with us today as you choose. But for the next 2 hours, it's going to be me and my good friend Rick Kasperzak is sitting in today. So we'll be open micing with you guys for the next 2 hours to talk about a little bit of everything that's going on, certainly here in Chicago, and of course in the greater progressive conversation. So Rick, welcome to the show.
Richard, it's good to be back in the studio with you. Thank you for having me today.
That's good. That's good. I mean, it's whenever I have the opportunity to singularly host a show, meaning Eric's not here and it's me and Devin and or Paul, or when I'm here filling in for Joan or for Santita, it's always nice because we get to hopefully have a spirited conversation, and most always have our guests who call in, or our listeners, I should say, who call in that want to talk about what's going on in the current environment that we are in. Rick and I were on the way into the studio, and of course we were chatting each other up a little bit about what's happening in the world. But the big thing, obviously, we cannot get around it, because why would we, is that it's Pride Month, not just here in Chicago, but kind of all over the place. Rick, what do you say?
Yeah. I think given the current environment with so many of the conservative politicians putting restrictions on the LGBTQ plus community, it's what I've seen amongst my friends in the community is that they're really pushing Pride celebrations hard this year.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've heard all over the progressive sort of conversations this week. I listen to Stephanie Miller's show and occasionally get a chance to listen to some of Tom Hartman's show. And most definitely we're making a concerted effort, those of us who are progressives, to not only push back to the center line, but also push past that. The thing that I said to Dana Goldberg, she and I were texting or Instagramming back and forth this week. She had a performance in Salt Lake City. She's been doing some great work. And the thing that I posted and said about LGBTQ plus month, in a similar vein, not exactly the same, but in a similar vein, we look at the criticisms of people who say, well, why do we have a LGBTQ plus month? Why do we have a Black History Month? And I said, well, listen, I get it. And if it's going to be a way to, so to speak, celebrate the communities and the efforts of soldiers in the community in the fight for decades, if not centuries, the way I like to position it is, I understand that it helps a lot of people reflect and come out and speak and do all the things that folks do. And in the Gay Pride Month, we have parades in many cities now. It used to be just in the top 4 or 5 metropolitan areas in the country: Chicago, New York, Boston, LA, San Francisco were the mainstays. And now that's spread. And so my post was really focusing on, like Black History Month, LGBTQ plus month, this is really less about the month and more about the history. And so, as I like to say in terms of Black History Month, Black history is American history.
Yes.
LGBTQ plus history is American history. Because the only thing the biggest thing that's different is that there are fewer people that currently are pushing back on celebrating. They're pushing back on the lifestyle,
Right.
and more so than but now what's happening is the celebrations are being, pushed back, and we'll obviously touch into different areas that we want to talk about. But the thing that's important right now is, as you and I were saying in the car, we cannot yield to or give into the those that are criticizing the celebration, and most certainly criticizing the lifestyle, because it's part of American history, as
Right.
is Black history is American history.
Yes. And and if there's ever been a time throughout our history where it's even more important to celebrate Black History Month and Pride Month, it's now.
Right.
I mean, the conservative right is doing everything in their power to push back our celebrations of who we are.
Right, and I think that's why so many people, certainly in the Black community, are saying that we have to stop. I've heard a number of people say we have to stop celebrating Black History Month, because Black history is American history. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily one to say we stop celebrating Black History Month, but I do want people to be more broadly recognizing that Black history is American history. And having Gay Pride Month is really a reflection of American history. It's just that it's the thing that, and Rick and I talk about this a lot. I can walk down the street and people know I'm Black. I guess, I have this great costume that I wear. I put it on in the mornings and I head out and get out and do my thing. But this has been my observation for, most of my, certainly all of my adult life, and in my teens and my pre-adult life. One doesn't necessarily know that someone is either gay or lesbian, or to that extent trans necessarily.
Right.
So that's why when people stop and think about it, it's the color of your skin is a direct tell of the culture that you represent. But outside of that, and this is where the LGBTQ community has been, what's been said for such a long time. I'm not speaking for, I'm just speaking for what I learned, is that it crosses, it's the biggest intersection
It is.
of communities, because, I'm repeating something, and not to sound pandering, but Rick, nobody necessarily is going to know that someone is gay or straight or not.
Right.
Or not, gay or straight or trans. They won't know. Necessarily.
No.
There's nothing that's going to tell them that. So in terms of intersectionality of communities, that's why it's part of American history.
It is. And if I could just also mention, using the word celebrating, and we're celebrating, we celebrate Black History Month and we celebrate Pride Month. I also look at it as it's kind of an annual, let's bring our achievements or our progress to the forefront,
right,
and let people know the accomplishments and the achievements that we've made in the past year.
Yeah.
It's also very important for us to talk about what is trying to be done to our communities and push our communities back.
Right.
And if there's, as long as we're talking about Pride Month, if there's anybody, who can, tell you, who started the modern gay movement today, it was the drag queens at Stonewall Inn in New York City in 1969.
1969, yeah.
They were the ones that threw the bricks and and started the whole, started the whole thing.
Absolutely. And it is an intersection of communities, because of the fact that there is, there's a spot, and I think, I'm not sure, Devin will correct me. I think Devin may have been the voice to record this, but it's a spot that we run certainly during the weekday, and it speaks to one of the Army generals. You know which one I'm talking about?
Frederick von Steuben.
Yeah, von Steuben. And so what year was that?
17 something. Revolutionary War, so 1776.
So before we even had a Pride Month or a Black History Month or an Asian American Asian American, I'm going to stay right there so I don't mess it up. Yeah. Asian American, and nobody be offended, month, we had members of our society serving in the military that, Devin?
I just want to chime in that not only was Frederick von Steuben, there are rumors that him and founding father Benjamin Franklin had a few all-male orgies. So our founding fathers had no problem with the LGBT either.
Yeah, so that's why I was trying to figure out how I was going to wield that into the conversation, because we run a spot about that. So when we talk about it being part of our history, it's clearly part of our history. It's part of, this is the thing that so many people, and we want you to go, you guys give us a call at 773-763-9278. It's a part of our conversation that ultimately gets into how the Bible, not religion, but how the Bible gets in and gets into the way of that conversation, and how the Bible, and frankly, I will call out Christianity, uses, or how people use the Bible and Christianity to flog this conversation. But the reality is, in the Bible, there's some areas where one could kind of say, well, it's not necessarily condoned. It's sort of like it's talked about, but even those that are Bible scholars will say it doesn't flat out say it's.
Well, and I think the first time that homosexuality was mentioned in the Bible, it's referenced in modern day Christianity. But I believe the first time they said where it was an abomination was in which was in I think 1947, when they did a. Don't quote me on that exact year, but it's right around that time where that's the first time it was ever mentioned in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And it was, there was a latest, that was the latest review of, of the Bible.
Well, and again, that's it's a weapon, it's a tool that's been used and weaponized Christianity, the Bible, to do a whole bunch of, bad stuff. I almost said a bad word. But and we'll reference in and out today this part of the conversation. It is Pride Month, and that's something that touches all of us in one way or the other, whether it be family, immediate family, the second circle, the third circle, the fourth circle, friend, immediate friend, circle, and that's the part that makes the word pride is actually such an appropriate word to use to have this be a month to talk about achievements, to talk about history, and of course to talk about achievements, but to also talk about the future. And the future is about pushing back, just like Black History Month is in the same, or in a similar way. It's about, yes, the history, Black History Month, and this is where a lot of younger African Americans, and I say younger, I'd say under the age of 50, are saying, if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about where we're going on the shoulders of those who got us to this point. And I see that happening somewhat in the LGBTQ plus community. We'll talk about history, and we have to talk about where we're going, because the going is the pushback. The going is what we're going to do to fight, to continue to fight for the equalities that are necessary in all of the communities. Because that's the one thing. That's the one thing that people miss, is that equality is not about taking away from anybody else. It's about, if anything, I've used this phrase before, it's about forcing people to take their foot off of our necks. That's all we're asking at the end of the day.
Right.
And when that happens, to finish this thought process, when that happens, and as we were walking in the door, that's where the fear is in the community that wants to prevent progress, is that they're no longer solely in charge of everything.
Right. The one thing that I wanted to also mention is, accurate historical references are very important.
Yep.
History is at risk as well, because there are those who want to change history, eliminate history, not talk about what history was. So it's important to know what our history is, but not just talk about history, as you mentioned, but to also move forward, take that history and take a look at where we are today, and then strategically plan where we want to be next year and in the future.
To Rick's point about history, it's the thing that popped into my mind when Rick said this is the question why. So right now we're talking about in schools and in many places the removal of books of a certain conversation or certain, what content is probably a better word. So when we think about that, this is the thing that maybe the elected officials and even to some extent those who call themselves progressive in the media aren't really doing enough to my satisfaction, and that is asking the question why, rather than just saying eliminating books and banning books is stupid and it's this and it's that. The conversation I think needs to be around why. Why is that happening? And then get into a debate on that, on the merits of that, rather than it's wrong, it's awful, you people are terrible. I'm not going to have that conversation with anyone. I'm going to say, I want you to tell me why, or I want to have the conversation be around why, because my observation is that there's a different why. What we're hearing is the why is it's going to taint and harm and groom our children. Okay, well, that's not the real why. That's the shiny object why. Right. The real why, and candidly, unapologetically, and Rick and I talked about this a little bit earlier, the real reason why is that it it just keeps revealing the truth. And that truth is causing middle-class white families that are center-right and further right to freak the heck out because their children are challenging them on the stuff that their parents and grandparents did and the things that have systemically been in place. Their children are challenging them on that. And so it reveals that your parents, your grandparents, or great-grandparents may not have been as great as they led you to believe. Doesn't mean that they necessarily were bad people. Some of them were. But they weren't as great and untainted as they led you to think they were generationally. So that being exposed is showing the weakness of those previous generations. And children are challenging their parents on that now because they're going, hey, wait a minute, I read that XYZ happened or this was done by white folks to other, or by straight white folks to other people. Mm-hmm. And we have to now put in the conversation straight white folks because the banning isn't just of books that are about African American history or Hispanic history or Asian history. It's included in that is the LGBTQ community, which affects or is linked to all of those that I just listed. So it is about candidly, unapologetically, straight white male-led families threatened by the truth coming out about the ancestry of their family and the greater society of the United States of America. And losing that image, that being taken away and challenged by their children, has pushed people to say, we can't allow our kids to be. Well, let's be honest for a second. Let's just check this out, Devin and Rick. If you take a 40-year-old mom and a 40-year-old dad, just check this out for a second. I'm 61 years old. Rick is 63. You take a 40-year-old family, mom and dad, that have, let's say, sub 12-year-old children in school. Now watch this. And they suddenly are upset about the fact that their children are reading about the LGBTQ community, the black community in terms of historical perspective, and others. Yep. But their children are, let's say, sub 12 years of age. And they're saying their kids shouldn't have to deal with this and shouldn't have to, all the whatevers. Let's make an assumption here that those parents graduated from high school somewhere in America. Fair statement?
Sure.
Not saying they didn't go, not saying they went to college, but they graduated from a high school. Stands to reason that the high school or the school system that they went through, kindergarten through 12th grade, probably, what now, had those books in those schools and they read that material while they were in school, they didn't turn out the way in which they are saying their children are going to turn out, right? You with me? They didn't turn out the way that they say their children will possibly turn out if they read the same books that they read in school. So that tells me that there's a lot of BS in that argument, because if that parent didn't turn out that way, that's 40 years old, and I'm just saying let's say that's the average age of the mom and dads that are yelling the loudest, then what is it there's a disconnect here, and I know we got to go to a break, but there's a disconnect. You didn't turn out that way.
Right.
That you say that your children are going to turn out if they read the same stuff in books and whatnot that you read. So, but nobody's, so when how I talk and think, Rick, I'm going, wait a minute, the argument's being fought the wrong way.
Well, the argument in my case is, I grew up reading and being taught the straight world. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's not how I turned out, because that's not how a gay person is gay. A member of the LGBT community was not taught to be a member of the LGBT community.
Right.
You just are a member.
Right.
And yeah. And so, but a lot of what you're talking about, Richard, is based in a 4-letter word that starts with F. Mm-hmm. Fear.
Yep.
It's all about fear, and it's we briefly spoke about this earlier, and where we are today politically, and how the African American community and the LGBTQ community are really being attacked, and I have to say it's based in fear, but I truly can't get my arms around what the fear is.
Yeah.
Because, I thought that in the African American community and the LGBT community, I thought we've made so many strides, and I don't know what you have to fear from us.
Yeah. Well, the fear is, as Eric often says, the costume, literally and figuratively, the costume that we wear scares the hell out of them, because now they recognize, like I said when we were coming in, that the communities respectively are not going to take this craziness anymore. No. So, Devin, how are we doing, man? Do we need to take a little bit of a break here, or squeeze something in, or how you want to do this?
We gotta go break.
Okay, we're going to go to break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is Tanisha K. Brooks, teacher for the Great Ann Arbor Public Schools, where Wolverines rule. Keep listening to the Family Meeting.
Hey Chicago, are you always on the go? Take the new Shy 311 app with you to find the information that you need, submit non-emergency city service requests, and much more. Download the new Shy 311 app, built with Chicagoans for Chicagoans. That's Shy 311 on the App Store or Google Play, or check it out online at 311.chicago.gov. Stay informed with Shy 311. It's your gateway to Chicago services.
A basic and essential part of any financial plan is savings. Most of whatever cash you have will be there because you put it there, not necessarily because of some fancy investment. Now with Save and Plan, Polaris has introduced a way for you to get empowering financial advice. Save and Plan is simple. Just sign up to save on a systematic monthly basis directly from your account and gain access to a planner and our planning services. Once you sign up to save, Polaris will help you develop a customized financial plan and give you a real person to speak with. Your dedicated planner is just an email or phone call away. Save and Plan offers empowering advice for everyone. Visit us at polarisadvice.com and call us today at 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. That's 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. Save and Plan, empowering advice for everyone.
Securities offered through Lion Street Financial LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Investment advisor services offered through Lion Street Advisors LLC, registered investment advisors. Polaris Wealth Management and Lion Street Financial are not affiliated.
A 2016 study estimated that 13.1 million Americans were victims of identity theft last year. Fight back against your identity being stolen by signing up for Identity Guard. Identity Guard monitors your credit and identity information with alerts that can help you respond quickly if certain changes indicating fraudulent activity are detected, as well as help protect your computer from viruses, key logging, and other serious threats. Plus, with Identity Guard's dynamic credit management resources and tools, you will have helpful information as you make better financial and credit decisions. Identity Guard includes $1 million identity theft insurance and lost wallet protection, and more if you ever do become a victim. Protect your ID for as little as $6 per month. Yes, that's only $6 per month by visiting lookaftermyid.com. That's lookaftermyid.com to securely sign up for Identity Guard today.
Hey, Chicago, this is motivational speaker and author William A. Eady II, author of the book Listen If You Want to Succeed. Welcome back to the Family Meeting.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the Family Meeting. This is Richard Chu. I am here with my great friend Rick Kasperzak. Eric Grant is doing Eric Grant stuff today, so he asked me to kind of step in and handle things for him while he's away. Miss you, E. But listen, before we went to break, Rick and I were talking about the four-letter word, the F word, and not the one you think, but the word fear. There's been a couple of posts out on social media that talk about the irrationality of the fear and the belief system that so many people have been able to run with for so many years, which is I'm speaking about where black folks are in the world today, or in America today, and where the LGBTQ community is in the world, or certainly in the United States of America today. And that whole fairy tale, to use a post from someone that's following us, that whole fairy tale that straight white men are the cat's meow is one of the things that I think is the fear. That exposure of that not being true is part of the fear. So let me drop this on you, Rick.
Yeah.
So there's a guy, he's a financier, businessman, blah, 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 blah. His name is Peter Thiel, and he's gay. He's a billionaire.
I do.
You know what I'm talking about?
do, yep.
Okay, so he's the money behind J.D. Vance. He's some of the money behind Carrie Lake. He's some of the money behind Vivek Ramaswamy, and then the list goes on. Now, the reason I'm bringing him up is he ran around for a while, not really, quote unquote, having come out. But the minute he got to a point where he realized that he had kind of achieved a certain amount of financial wealth, he came out. Now, as I understand the chronology here, and I could be a little bit off, the broader point is this. This is a white guy who happens to be gay that came out at a certain point in his financial achievement, and he's backing, and this is what cracks me up. It's a similar thing that I see with some of these, quote, black Republicans. He's backing candidates that, when push comes to shove, they're going to vote against what he, to use a phrase, they're going to vote against what we would think are his interests, which would be to serve and strengthen the LGBTQ community, unless he's fully you-know-what about where he is in terms of being gay, a gay white male. Right. So to me, that's those people, because I see a huge amount of hypocrisy there. It's like some of the black Republicans.
Yeah.
Now, Eric uses a phrase a lot about, we're not going to pick a team or pick a gang, so to speak. However, that's someone that, I want to call out, because in reality, if you're backing people who don't, to use our phrase here at the family meeting, have all of our permanent interest, out in front, then you're actually backing people who are going to hurt your greater cause.
Right.
And so, J.D. Vance has come out and been very hyperbolic as it relates to issues of equality. Vivek Ramaswamy has the same thing. And that's where I look at this and go, there's a little bit of hypocrisy, if not a lot of hypocrisy there. And I try to link that to what you said about fear. Well, if we're going to believe that fear is at the core of all this, or certainly a huge part of it, then, and it's based in some, irrational thinking, then to me, that's just a huge sign of weakness.
Right.
Because like you said, and I said it a little bit differently, no one's saying from any of the communities that we want to come get your stuff.
Right.
Nobody wants to come get your stuff. We want you to take your foot off of our necks.
Yes.
That's it. I mean, and many black scholars have said this for years. We're not asking for a damn thing except that you take your foot off our necks.
Yes.
And that's not, I can't quote anyone from the LGBTQ community that's black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever has said something has said those words, but I know that that's probably been a part of the sentiment.
I'm sure it is.
Fair statement?
Fair. Absolutely.
I mean, that's so that's why I want people to embrace what I'm embracing, which is real-time calling out the BS.
Yep.
Let's not wait. Let's call it out right now. Let's not give it a week to figure it itself out and let people get their stories in order. Call it out in the moment, because what that does is it lets folks know we truly aren't going to take it anymore. We truly are going to tell you right now, this is how I feel and what I think, how I think about something. Right now. You don't get to think about it and kind of get your story right and clean it up a little bit. You said it, too bad, and I don't have any space for that any longer.
That's right.
I think that the pride definition has embraced that.
Right.
Fair statement?
Very fair.
Have you seen any, just in the short couple of days, what have been some of your observations in terms of what's happening in the city as it relates to pride?
I can't. Before I think about answering the question for the city of Chicago, although we are talking about Chicago and we should, one of the really interesting observations I've made across the country has to do with drag queens, okay, and how all of a sudden innocent drag queens, which are a form of entertainment, and it's G-rated, or maybe I would maybe go so far.
Rating,
yeah,
maybe.
G+ rating.
Yeah.
Okay. But what has happened now in some of these conservative states, Florida, for example, some of our callers that are listening, or some of our listeners that are members of the LGBT community, will know that Wilton Manors in the greater Fort Lauderdale, Florida area is a big mecca for the LGBTQ community. They've had, they've celebrated Pride for decades and decades. And this year, because of Governor DeSantis's hateful bills that he signed into law regarding drag queens, they are not, the parade organizers in Wilton Manors for Pride have decided that no drag queens are going to be allowed.
Yeah.
And it's really the equivalent of a clown at a circus. They're there for entertainment.
Yeah.
And they're taking this really fun form of entertainment at the Pride celebrations, and they've created this horrible fear. Not only they're trying to say that it's fearful and dangerous for your children to see this, and the fear is carried over into those who like to wear drag and have fun, and their fear is that they'll be arrested.
Yeah, I think that, and this is a observation that I've made for, I think, a few times on the show. The people who are least impacted by these sort of laws and changes and guidelines and all that are oftentimes the people that are the biggest can be the biggest benefactors. So, for example, it's entertainment, right?
Yep.
So, honestly, we've all, for years in our lifetime, probably viewed clowns as something that men typically dress up and perform as. Now, I'm trying, so nobody get upset with me. I'm using that as a general statement, not to say that there haven't been ladies who have been clowns or dressed up as clowns that came out the road. But that's sort of been our socialization. Fair statement?
Yes.
And you guys, would you fairly agree, Devin? So my question then becomes, if suddenly we started to see women dressing up in clown costumes, is that going to be perceived by these knuckleheads as some form of drag? Because women are dressing up in clown, because it's all based on, men dressing up in drag is really the conversation. So let's just flip the script a little bit and say, so what do we do now if a woman dresses up? Is that cross-dress? And I'm not asking because I know the answer. I'm asking for those who are trying to legislate this fear, into the social conversation. And again, as much as I hate that it's happening, the argument against it, I think, is positioned wrongly sometimes. Not wrongly, not that it's wrong, but it could be a better argument or a different argument. So, for example, like I said before the break about the whole issue with books in schools, let's not fight that with it's going to poison and affect our children in a negative way. Let's ask the parents that are 40-ish or whatever age-ish that are yelling the loudest about this. You went through a school system. Did you graduate? I mean, if I were at a school board meeting and someone stepped up and started going on about, books in schools and this, that, and the other, I'd be the guy that would step up and say, hold on a second. Let me ask you a question, ma'am or sir. Did you graduate from high school? Yes or no? Yes, I did. Okay. So when you were in school, and then the track I'd go down, I would litigate that in a very interrogating manner. You read I would have 5 or 6 books that were probably popular when that person graduated from high school roughly 22 years ago and say, did you read these in high school? Just 4 or 5 of them. These lists, that list. Are you straight or are you not? Are you gay or what's the deal? Are you crazy or are you sane? I would ask the questions to make them answer the question about what they're saying is what's going to happen to their children if they read this. And then ask them, well, what the heck happened to you? Because you turned out seemingly okay.
Now, my opinion on the book banning and books that are being banned, I will bet
that what?
I will bet they never read them.
Oh, we got a head nod from Devin on that one. What do you think?
As the internet has shown me, they haven't read them. They've seen the pictures or been told by their Charlie Kirks or their, can I still say their Tucker Carlsons, what to be mad about?
Sure. I agree. I agree with that statement a lot, Devin. I don't think they've read them, and they have jumped on the bandwagon.
Okay. So maybe then that could be my point was that the pushback, if you will, or the argument is taking the position that we should defend, and that they should remain in the schools and in the libraries, and along with that, to kind of walk and chew gum, ask the question: well, how did you get to this point? To take Devin's observation, where did you get the information that you're using to say that they shouldn't be there? How did you know about it? What have you? Tell me what you know about a Toni Morrison book or any person's book that they're trying to ban. Tell me what you know about that book. Because if Devin's right, which I think he's better than 80% right in that, not that it's right or wrong, but that's a way of looking at it and where they're getting their data from. If that's true, again, those who are pushing back that have the voice, and we have that voice, we should push back with, well, what have you read? What do you actually know? What are you actually somewhat versed in on this subject matter of the books that you're saying should be pulled out of school? Now, tell me what you guys think about this. In the same conversation. For weeks now, I've been yelling and screaming, when will someone finally say enough's enough? And if you're going to take this out of school or take this out of school, then we want to fight back with this fire, which is, now we've got a group in, is it Idaho or is it Utah? Maybe it's Utah, that's said this past week that the Bible should be taken out of schools. Utah? That's how you fight this battle.
Right.
The Bible should be taken out, or the Bible should not be read in school in any way, shape, or form. That's how you fight this battle, because now The only because when you're building a case as an attorney or someone that's a plaintiff, you're going to use data or information that says this document, this book has XYZ in it, which I find offensive. So if the core argument of those who want to have books taken out of schools and libraries is that they find it offensive and that it's going to be too much for children to read and to embrace, that could change them, then that's how you fight the argument. It's to counter it with the issue, which is it's too much for children to read and embrace. So there is a lot of violence in the Bible. And there's a lot of sexuality and sexualizing in the Bible. That's how these folks are fighting it in Utah.
And it's an interesting example because as I understand the laws in Florida regarding book banning, all it requires is one parent to say, I find this book to be offensive, and I don't think that our children should be reading that.
Yeah.
So, to your point, Richard, if we can have a mainstream book banned by one parent, well, the same should apply to the Bible.
And that's the slippery slope, because now we're banning, because of that, one person has got the ability to go in and request that a book be banned, then, that's the slippery slope of banning anything. Right. Because, I think that's the way to fight the argument that we're faced with. However, the argument in and of itself is crazy, that we're banning books because they're gonna groom our children. Right. So, but again, that's I think to get the attention of those who are yelling the loudest on this issue, fight it with that kind of fire rather than, oh, those books are fine and we shouldn't be taking. No. They're just going to steamroll you. You fight it with the same thing that they're coming at you with. In this case, their primary book, the one book that they want to be in schools without questions asked. So I kind of dig the idea, but once again, I just kind of blew through the break. The number is 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
This is Paul Mark Wallace, president of InSync Consulting Services. Our website is www.insynccs.com. Keep listening to The Family Meeting.
Do you have a pain that won't cease? A health issue that's not getting better? It may be time you visited Health on Earth Wellness Centers. With over 20 years experience, 4 Chicagoland locations, and patients that range from 2 months old to 93, Health on Earth Wellness Centers are fully prepared to meet all your chiropractic needs. We have state-of-the-art facilities in Crestwood, Tinley Park, the South Loop, and Naperville. Don't let being healthy be your last resort. Make it your first choice. Make an appointment today at healthonearth.org. That's healthonearth.org.
Itsashort.com. The website is itsashort.com, spelled ITSASHORT.com. We are the best designation on the internet for award-winning short film, video, and web series. Artists are from all over the world. They are award-winning from various festivals, but you can find us at info@itsashort.com, customer care at itsashort.com, and we'll get back to you straight away.
A 2016 study estimates that 13.1 million Americans were victims of identity theft that year. Fight back against identity theft by signing up for Identity Guard. Identity Guard monitors your credit and identity information with alerts that can help you respond quickly if certain changes indicating fraudulent activity are detected, as well as help protect your computer from viruses, keylogging, and other serious threats. Plus, with Identity Guard's dynamic credit management resources and tools, you will have helpful information as you make better financial and credit decisions. Identity Guard includes $1 million identity theft insurance and lost wallet protection, and more if you ever do become a victim. Protect your ID by visiting lookaftermyid.com. That's lookaftermyid.com to securely sign up for Identity Guard today.
This is Vince Verzi, a consultant with BizBloom.com. Welcome back to the Family Meeting.
First of all, I want to thank my man Devin for keeping us rolling forward. Not only with great commentary, but just keeping the technology in place. When Eric's here, he runs the boards, and he hasn't forced me to sit down and learn that yet. So I guess I can't say that's Eric's fault. It's probably mine. But listen, the number 773-763-9278. This is the Family Meeting Radio Show. It's always great to be here every Sunday. We are fortunate to have the opportunity to talk about a little bit of everything. And as Eric so often says, we don't know what the hell we're going to talk about when we get there, but when we get there, we talk about it. So shout out to E for having provided that leadership for us here, not only on the Family Meeting, but WCPT, the greater station. So we have a few people that have called in, and with the help of Devin, we're going to grab a first call. Looks like it's our man Jim from Chicago. Hey, happy Sunday, Jim.
Hi. Happy Sunday, Richard, and your guest. Religion started to creep into politics in a serious nature in the 80s. Pat Robertson, if you remember him, he's got the 700 Club. His son's got it now. Then he put Republican senators on the station every day. They're completely Republican. Jerry Falwell, you know, he treated the people with AIDS in the 80s. That's where it came in a serious nature. But what happened was the rich Catholics threw in their lot with these Protestants, and you've got 6 of them on the Supreme Court that are their religion. They think that they're the Alpha and the Omega, that their religion is the right religion. Well, let me tell you this. President Biden is a devout Catholic. Nancy Pelosi is a devout Catholic. She's from Frisco. She's from Rights for Every American. The Roe versus Wade decision was completely done with a lot of Catholic money, with a lot of wealthy Catholic money, and this has gone too far. This is America. Everybody has to be represented. We have every religion here, Richard. We have Muslim, we have Judaism, we have Muslims, we have Hindus, Shintos. We have everything here, and these are Americans. And this is a democracy.
Yeah.
And we vote in a democracy. These red states, they're running on religion. They're actually running their capitals on religion, which is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, you know, Jim,
it's nuts.
It's interesting. I mean, you're a Chicago guy, so you've been fortunate to see the diversity in the Chicago metropolitan area, both culturally and with regard to religion. And you're right. We have a strong Catholic community here. We have a strong Baptist community and Protestant and Muslim and Jewish communities.
Jewish, everything. Everything
we
here in Chicago.
We have everything here in Chicago, and we haven't toppled in on ourselves yet. In fact, that's what's propped us up. Because the reality is, I mean, correct me if you think I'm wrong, Jim, because of the diversity of religions in the Chicago metropolitan area, yeah, we have the little infighting every now and again, but we've been able to sustain and support each other. When you go to an area where there's just one faith, that's when you got some crazy stuff going on. I mean, is that a fair statement?
You can see it in Oklahoma, of course, Richard. You can see it in Oklahoma. You can see it in Nebraska, where they're making these 6-week abortion bans. They're banning books. They're LGBT people. These are medical decisions. They have to go through a serious nature, of thinking about it, and then going to a doctor and finding out what they're good. This is in the hands of your next door neighbor.
Right. I mean,
this is in the hands of the individual. Yeah, I mean, we're moving along medically in the world. The civilization is moving forward. We can't take the version of somebody else's religion. Yeah. It's sacrosanct. That's not sacrosanct. What's sacred? We don't know the mind of Almighty God. Nobody does. Nobody can interpret the Almighty God. Nobody on this earth can. So the point is, this is America. And in America, we're democracy. We don't want voter suppression. Number one. That's number one. The Republicans want to use that against us terribly. They voter suppression all over the place. They don't want voters to vote. As far as people's choices about their whatever choice they make, happiness, whatever little bit of happiness they can get on this earth, I say go for it. My big commandment, the one that I would like that they would follow is thou shalt not kill. That's the one I would like to wake up one morning and find out nobody got shot for like 12 days in a row. But anyway, Richard, you have a great show, and you guys take care. Thanks, you very much.
All right, man. Always good to hear from my man Jim. Rick, he called in a few weeks ago, and we were talking about I think we were talking about gun violence. We were talking about a few things, and Jim called in, and he he started talking about, when he was a young guy and, growing up in Chicago. And he said, and he said, Eric, I had my .38 caliber. And I just cracked up laughing because I'm thinking about, just probably in his mid to late 70s, I'm thinking about, all those guys 70 and older, ladies too, 70 and older in Chicago, they carried a little 22 or 38, Saturday night special. And it harkened back to something funny about Chicago. I mean, no place else on the planet is that conversation held other than in Chicago. I had I had my Saturday night special, my .38 revolver. I thought, oh my God. So Jim, thank you as always for calling in. Love your historicals and your support of the show. Let's see who else we got. Marcus, darling, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, all right. How you guys doing this afternoon?
Great. Thanks for calling in.
Have pretty much touched on it, but I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But these same people that are pushing the hate against the gay community, saying that Black history has no educational value, they're banning books, aren't these the same people that say there's no longer any racism in this country?
Racism or sexism or any isms, it's no longer there.
Yeah, it's no longer there.
Yeah. You're right. That's a good point. And many times, Marcus, do you also see that that's the same person or group of people, not to overcategorize folks, that when it comes to recognizing the successes of the quote unquote, communities of color and the LGBTQ community, et cetera, that they're the first people to say that they were ones to get assistance and they were ones that, they weren't like the rest of the community that pulled themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah, and I'm going to lay this on you and then I'm gone. They say that they don't want their children to be stigmatized or have any ill feelings about what they did throughout history. Tell that to the Ruby Bridges, the Hills. Tell that to the National Guard that stood in front of or to the Governor Wallace, who stood in front of the University of Alabama to keep Black students from attending that school. Explain that to them. How do you think they felt?
Yeah, absolutely.
How your children feel. How do you think those children feel at the time?
Yeah, that's a good. That's the argument. It's not. So if that's the way that you don't want your children to feel, then so what you're saying is it's okay for everybody else's children to feel whatever negativity and hardship and ill that come from saying that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were these stalwarts. Really?
Yeah.
Last time I checked, George Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was very adept, Marcus, at taking advantage of women who were minors. I'll keep it clean.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. But the Great American History book. I mean, I'm gonna say this, and it may sound wrong, but I'm from the old school, and I saw it for the 65 years I've been here. If it ain't white, it ain't right. According to some.
Yep. That's a saying from the 70s, man. Thank you.
Yeah. All
right, Marcus. Thanks for calling in. Have a good Sunday. No, he's right about that in terms of the pain. I mean, it's okay to eliminate the behavior. And Eric talks about this a lot, and it's a good point that he always makes. It's like, listen, I intellectually, as Eric says, I'm paraphrasing, understand that if you found out, Rick or Richard, that our greats and greats and greats parents had done all this harm, that these families who enslaved people and who hugely mistreated the gay and lesbian community for decades, centuries, had done all that, you'd want to hide that too.
Yeah.
I mean, just psychologically, you'd want that to not be something you ever had to talk about again. But that's not the truth, and it's certainly not reality. But again, I always come back to this. The people who are most affected by keeping the story straight and the knowledge and talking about our history, the ones that are most impacted by that being out there are the ones who are most also concerned of being exposed. So are straight white males in America, and candidly, the women who they're married to that want to stay close to the patriarchy are most afraid of that story being told that they're not the strongest, smartest, fastest, best in the room. And the more that their children see it, they can't run away from that lie. Yeah. They just can't. So, well, we got a couple of minutes for the break. So, sticking with the topic we started with in terms of Pride Month, and I asked you the question about, what some of the things that you've seen going down so far this month, and you referenced what's happening in Florida from your experience being down in the Wilton Manors area. Yeah. One of the things that I'm curious about this year, and this has always been, we're really good about this. I commend our mayors the last 20, 30 years. I commend our current governor and for being very not even outspoken. It's just speaking their truth that we represent here in Chicago. And we've always had a great Pride weekend in terms of the parade and the celebration and the acknowledgement. We do a great job here in Chicago.
Yeah, we really do. And that's why, I've said it many times, over the years, I'm so thankful that I live in a blue state, in a blue city. And I get a little frustrated that I have to refer to the city that I love, Chicago, as a blue state. I really just I think Chicago's success is the fact that for so many years it embraced all the communities.
Yep.
Okay. Chicago certainly has its history of not so good, but overall, I think part of what makes Chicago such a great city is the fact that it's inclusive, of all the different communities.
To your point, yes, Chicago's definitely got its whole boatload of dirt, and wrong historically. It has bias, racism, sexism, and on and on. Economic, as Eric has said, the economic not hardship, but the economic pain that's been inflicted on communities of color and on women and on the LGBTQ community. That's a reality. That's happened. And our job is to stop it. It's two parts, minimally two parts. Is to still put a light on the fact that that's happened. That's part of our history. That's why we have blight in certain neighborhoods in the Chicago metropolitan area. There's a reason behind that, and it's called racism and bias. Okay? The economic hardship that's been inflicted on those communities is not something to look away from. It's something that has to be acknowledged and then dealt with. Now, as it relates to as we go forward, I think for Chicago to heal its historical wounds, it's got a lot of work to do, which is to acknowledge these things that have happened and then say, now what do we do to fix that? And the fix for a lot of people is hard to deal with, which is mainly because a lot of people, depending on the community that they live in the metropolitan area, think that if XYZ community gets something, that community is going to lose something. The zero-sum game conversation, which is so far from correct. It's stupid, frankly. When I hear someone talk that way, it actually shows me how stupid they are. That either or, and I'll cut them a little bit, either they're just stupid or they're selfish or a little bit of both. To think that if a community is going to be brought up, strengthened, and fixed and strengthened and allowed to develop, that you're going to lose something, shows how stupid you are. Because if you don't understand just basic economics, that community getting stronger is going to create opportunities for you and your community, without anything coming from your community.
Right.
So that's one of the big issues that we have, yes, we got lots of work to do in our city, but our city is golden. I love Chicago, and I am never going to turn my back on the city of Chicago because it's been too good to me, my family, and my friends. And I wanted to remain that for so many other people. We got to come up on a break, and I'm going to hit this one a little bit early this time so I can make up for some bad behavior. The number is 773-763-9278. I see you out there, Pam, Dave, David, and Big R. We will get back to you after we come back.
Hello, I'm Michael Hinton, assistant principal from Paul Revere. Go Raiders. Keep listening to the family meeting.
Polaris is introducing a way for you to get empowering financial advice, save, and plan. If you are like a lot of people, you'd like to work with a financial planner, but don't know if you earn or have enough to invest. Save and Plan will allow us to work with nearly anyone from young professionals to retirees looking to travel the world. Save and Plan is simple. Just sign up to save on a systematic monthly basis directly from your account and gain access to a planner and our planning services. Once you sign up, Polaris gives you a customized financial plan, a real person to speak with, and information to help you make good financial decisions. Your dedicated planner is just an email or phone call away. Save and Plan offers empowering advice for everyone. Visit us at polarisadvice.com. Call us today at 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. That's 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. Save and Plan, empowering advice for everyone. Securities, insurance, and advisory services offered through FSC Securities Corporation. Member FINRA SIPC. Insurance services offered through Polaris Insurance Agency, Inc., which is not affiliated with FSC Securities Corporation.
Hey, Family Meeting cousins. As you know, we've created a Patreon Family Meeting subscription and membership page to include you great listeners in our effort and give you a chance to very economically promote your business, organization, or local event. You can contribute as little as $5 per month to get your message out and support the Family Meeting as a viable voice. We know you appreciate our permanent interest dialogue, get up and dance playlist, and our great guests who stop by. So become a cousin and go to our website, tfmradioshow.com, and click the link.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Polaris is introducing a way for you to get empowering financial advice, save, and plan. If you are like a lot of people, you'd like to work with a financial planner, but don't know if you earn or have enough to invest. Save and Plan will allow us to work with nearly anyone from young professionals to retirees looking to travel the world. Save and Plan is simple. Just sign up to save on a systematic monthly basis directly from your account and gain access to a planner and our planning services. Once you sign up, Polaris gives you a customized financial plan, a real person to speak with, and information to help you make good financial decisions. Your dedicated planner is just an email or phone call away. Save and Plan offers empowering advice for everyone. Visit us at polarisadvice.com. Call us today at 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. That's 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. Save and Plan, empowering advice for everyone. Securities, insurance, and advisory services offered through FSC Securities Corporation. Member FINRA SIPC. Insurance services offered through Polaris Insurance Agency, Inc., which is not affiliated with FSC Securities Corporation.
Hey Chicago, are you always on the go? Take the new Shy 311 app with you to find the information that you need, submit non-emergency city service requests, and much more. Download the new Shy 311 app, built with Chicagoans for Chicagoans. That's Shy 311 on the App Store or Google Play, or check it out online at 311.chicago.gov. Stay informed with Shy 311. It's your gateway to Chicago services.
Hi, my name is Vicki Miller-Walton, and I listen to the Family Meeting.
Welcome back, you guys. This is Richard Chu here at the Family Meeting. It's Sunday, and we've got folks calling in to talk. So we're going to grab some calls, and then we'll shift gears in a little bit. But let's see. We've got Big Art in Chicago, wants to share an experience. How are you?
Welcome back, you guys. This is Richard Chu.
Hey, Big Art, you got to turn your radio off in the background.
We've got folks calling in to talk. So we're going to grab some calls, and then we'll shift gears.
Let's put him on hold. We'll come back to him. All right, let's talk to Pam on the west side of Chicago. How are you, Pam?
Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good afternoon. Hey, Pam, you may have to shut your radio off, or you.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, my radio is off, but let me move. That might be. Yeah, I always turn it off.
Okay.
Is that better?
Much better, dear. How are you? What's going on?
Overall, I'm well. Always concerned about the issue at hand, dealing with racism and all that entails. And now we can't even tell the truth about the history because we're getting pushback from that. I'm going to make a statement, but first let me just put this out there, Richard. I think we need to look at the system of Ivy League education because quite a few of these elected officials, right? Donald Trump, business, I think, Wharton School of Business. I think DeSantis, Yale, and I think
Harvard.
And Harvard. And then some of the rest that are in our Congress. We need to look at the system of what's going on in these Ivy League schools and what's turning out. I guess these. I don't even know what to call them, but I'll just leave that there as one thought. But when I listened to Dr. Cornel West, and I loved his book on Race Matters as well as some other books. He said when he visited Germany, he said the one thing that was very different is that there was true contrition from the government regarding what happened, the Holocaust and the murdering of Jewish people. He said the government, and of course we know that right now there is a rise of fascism and you know, the Nazis. We know that. But he said, but, you know, the government is really saying that this was unacceptable, it was wrong. Now, I put to you all the question, since the German children are taught the history of Germany and the atrocities that occurred in Germany because of German people, are the German children suffering at all? Are they having any type of complexes? Are they deficient in any way or suffering from guilt complexes? Or are they flourishing knowing their history?
Hey, Pam, they keep cranking out superb automobiles, superb engineers, superb doctors, and the list goes on and on and on. So that's how you fight that fight, though, Pam. You ask that question. So Germany is a hot point of the world's greatest atrocity in most of our lifetimes, and they talk about it because they sure as hell don't want to repeat it. They want their people to be able to build and go forward. And the American Society of Education, so
that just blows. Thank you. That blows it out. For when we make just an ignorant statement that you can't talk about the true history. And let me just ask this question of the white community, because I've asked this before, Richard. How long do you expect the black community, the LGBT community, and others to keep dealing with this hate and discrimination? We cannot exist as a country like this. And they feel, I mean those who like to hate, Asian hate, all of the hate, they feel emboldened to continue this.
Yeah, it's a great
point.
So
I'm asking, as we push back with our civil rights organizations, with our gay lesbian organizations, Richard, at some point you become frustrated and you tired. And you don't want to resort to the same violence that they perpetrate.
Yeah.
But at some point, you feel like you have to defend yourself. So I just ask, and I've said this before, the GWP, and that's the good white people. You all are going to have to do a whole lot more to help eradicate this hate and racism. And yes, it is within your family. I know it's difficult. It may even be your spouses, your bosses. But we need all hands on deck. Because we have our civil rights leaders telling us what? Vote, protest, boycott, never resort to violence. And we don't want to. But they're not being told that, I think, enough. And I'm going to put it out there, Richard, by their clergy. And I'm talking about the Catholic faith could do a whole lot more.
There's no doubt.
So those are some of, I want peace, but I'm not feeling it. And part of it is because I'm black. Then as a woman, I have to deal with the sexism, the misogyny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too much. And I know our ancestors went through a lot more, and we have to find a way to fight and fight hard.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Pam.
I'm mad.
And thank you for calling in today, dear.
Thank you, and I'll listen.
Have a good rest of the week. Listen, Pam makes a good point. Rick and I were talking about this in one manner on the way here about we're still carrying this baggage, and Rick gave this great example about you got to get rid of the baggage or not even carry it all, because what happens is, and you just keep putting more stuff in to the bag just breaks you. So to Pam's point and question, and this is where I am on this subject. The people who let me reposition this. Okay, what I see happening, and I've seen this happening for a long time, is that younger generations. We'll take Devin as an example. Younger generations, whether they be white, Hispanic, black, coming from another country than America that's denoted themselves as European, on and on and on. They are less willing to accept this historical BS. And the fear that's being thrown out there now is coming from an older generation, and the younger generation isn't tolerating it. They're quicker to deal with it, and frankly, they're less likely to have, from what I've observed, friends and associates that are narrow-minded. So the fear, as I'm seeing it, is a lot of people that are pushing this craziness and keeping this, as my mother used to say, keeping all this hell stirred up, are those who are most afraid of what the Devins of the world are going to do. Case in point, why would you have legislators now in various states, mostly, well, frankly, all red, trying to block young folks like Devin from voting? Because they're worried that the message is no longer going to reach them in the manner in which it has. So then you have, at the same time, you get this other juxtaposition of banning books that talk about history, so the younger than Devins can then be groomed by lies to think the way that their crazy-ass parents want them to think. I just see that's what's in the soup right now. And I know I took the long way home to get there. It still comes back to fear. It comes back to they're afraid of the Devins of the world and his generation, chronological generation, and the fact that they just aren't tolerating anyone. They're just going to speak about it. They don't care. They're like, that's not how we see the world. So that takes away the power structure that's been entrenched for so long. That's maybe oversimplifying it, Rick. I mean, but
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what you're dealing with. One doesn't have to spend a lot of time listening to the news to just filter out, from a high level what's going on. And right now, the GOP is very focused and has been for quite a while on voter suppression. Mm-hmm. And now they have realized that the young people, like Devin's age, are not in line with what their parents or their grandparents' beliefs are. This younger generation is realizing that none of these lies and twists of history matters. Mm-hmm. And they're looking at it that they don't care if someone is a member of the LGBT community. They don't care if their friend is an Asian American or an African American person. So I think what's happening now is they're looking between the two political parties and realizing what each stand for. Mm-hmm. And the GOP has now realized that that's a very dangerous position for these young folks to take.
Dangerous to the GOP.
Dangerous to their, yes. Right. Yes, dangerous to the GOP. And let's face it, the GOP, the grand old party, I'm going to stress old because that's kind of their thinking.
Well, to take a little bit of Pam's acronym out, the GOWP, the grand old white party,
yeah,
is, and I don't want to speak for anybody, I'm just speaking from what I've observed, is not doing, before the midterm, election, Eric asked the question: Is the Progressive Democratic Party doing enough with their messaging to get a message to the younger, because he pointed out that like 10% of the baby boomers were dying that were traditional GOP, that would have been potentially GOP voters, are dying.
Right.
Whereas the millennial and younger were hitting their stride, and they were coming in a stronger percentage. So Eric's question was, is the Democratic Party doing enough to reach that audience? And the numbers proved to be, the answer to that question to be yes, they were doing quite a bit. If nothing else, they weren't turning off the younger generations from voting in that direction, whereas the GOP was turning off a large enough group of people, younger voters, to make up the difference of that 10%. Yeah. That number is going to increase. And so I think that the Democratic Party and leadership and messaging across the board on a national, regional, local level has got to continue to lean in to that conversation. Not just because of the political strategy behind it, but it makes sense. Right. I mean, the younger voters, we always talk about, this is what cracks me up. We always talk about, we got to take care of the country and the environment for our children. Well, dang on it. I almost said a bad word. Dang on it. We have to, yes, that's common sense. And if we're going to do that, then we've got to open up the vessel and say, look, y'all, how can we make this thing better for you? Rather than telling you how it should be, we need to ask them how they would like it to be as we go forward. Because Lord knows our generation and the one before us has messed some stuff up. Yeah. So that's how I think we have to approach that, to then embrace what Pam said about, making sure that we're putting a not just a cap or a lid on this, but that we're fixing it. So, Devin, I'll give you a split second, but let's grab a few of these calls. I don't want to miss anybody. Let's go to Dave in Hoffman Estates. Dave, happy Sunday. How are you doing today?
Hey, oh, well, thanks. Hey, Richard. Hey, is it Rick?
It's Rick.
Hello.
Yeah.
See you guys. And,
hi, Dave.
Hey, just got to thinking when you were talking about Jefferson first. Do you think the Republicans nowadays would have considered his presidency illegitimate as he took his oath on a Koran?
See, Dave, now, as Eric says, now you're asking these smart questions, and you're bringing some knowledge and research to the conversation. That's right. I mean, here's what
he did, and the guy that's the Attorney General of Minnesota used Jefferson's Koran when he took his oath of office.
So, Dave, here's a question you want to ask with that. Let's line up 100 conservatives and ask them, what do you think about, and then fill in with your question, what do you think about the fact that, that he took his oath of office on a Quran, and ask them what they think about that and see how they stumble. Like have Jordan Klepper go around and ask a bunch of conservatives at a Trump rally, what do you think about the fact that Jefferson did this, and see what they do. So, good point.
Yeah, it's just a thought to throw that up to you. But here's mine that I was calling you about, and kind of on the coattails of Pam and yourself, was the outrage on that shooting of that 11-year-old Adarian Murray, who got shot by that Sergeant Greg Capers.
Yeah.
Of the I don't know how do you say, Indianola,
Mississippi.
Police.
Yeah.
And nobody talked about that on CPT. I brought it up once. That's it. I haven't heard Santino. I haven't heard none of the other guys.
Yeah.
But when Kim Potter did it, by this time she was already booked.
Yeah, no.
And was it because of Capers was black?
Listen. And, I'm going to be honest and say I don't know the answer to that specific question. What is it? What the why? But I do know that.
And like in Minnesota, they had that Mohammed Noor who killed that Justine Damon.
Yeah.
He did a couple of years, and he's out. Because he, like a Barney Fife, he's coming up, and that was, basically that was an injustice done too.
It is. I mean, it's so many times when we talk about this, we talk about it from the perspective of just stop killing people. And I don't want to take away from something that Eric has said, but just stop. Just stop, police officers, black or white or Hispanic or female, whatever. Just stop killing people, unarmed Americans. Just stop doing it.
Right. And I mean, that boy, I think that boy they had called the 911.
Yeah.
He was coming out when he got shot.
Yeah, I mean,
and he's the only one that has called for that sergeant to get fired.
I know.
As far as I know, that guy's still behind the desk and getting paid.
And again,
right?
being more versed in the specifics of what's happening with that. I mean, I remember when you brought that up before. Yeah, it's a travesty, and a tragedy, no matter who does it, who in law enforcement kills someone in those circumstances, whether they're black or they're white. I mean, the folks that the cops were six total cops in St. Louis. 5 were black. Doesn't make it right. I don't look at that as a black person and say, well, no, I never do that. I don't ever do that. And I can.
I remember I asked Eric that time. I said, where the hell was Ben Crump? I thought I'd see him, and he said at that time that he doesn't do cops. Well, about a week or two later, Crump was over there.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so my question was Ben Crump again.
Between the time that we think something and the time that that people are dealing with it or are speaking about it, it isn't perfect, but it does get. I believe it does get addressed, and we at CPT as a station, and certainly here on the family meeting, we definitely don't drop the ball when it comes to dealing with talking about those things. Like I said, we can deal with them. But it's not perfect.
Well,
I mean,
if not, guys like me will keep you honest on it anyway.
Well, you'll try. Thanks,
I'll
David.
try, and I'm usually pretty successful. You
Wow.
might, get one or two of your callers start saying that I'm getting ready to put my white hood on or something, because it's something we may not agree with. But,
well, you won't have to worry about the callers if you get to that point. You won't have to worry about it being one of the callers. I think there's 2 guys that are here every Sunday that would probably call you on it, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. But anyhow,
there you go.
Dave,
cool.
thank you so much for calling in, man. We're going to grab some other quick calls. Have a great week, Dave.
Well.
Thanks. Let's go to David in LaGrange Park.
Hey, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, man. What's happening out in LP?
Okay. Well, I was listening earlier, and I think it was you yourself that said that, that these people that are going to the school board meetings about the books that are in the curriculum,
yes,
that they're just getting their marching orders from Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson types and not even reading the books. Well, I got to tell you, you're going to don't sell them short, because I've been watching a lot of the extended video of a lot of these school board meetings around the country, and they have been bringing the books in. They've been reading them out loud. They've had their children come in and read what's in the books out loud and saying, and of course then the school board shut down the meeting because it's inappropriate language you couldn't even say at the family meeting today. I mean, a lot of really raunchy stuff and it's not a ban. It's what's available for the curriculum. The books are not supposed to be banned. You can read whatever you want. You don't want to put Playboys in elementary.
But they're not. But David, let me partner with you for a second. Playboy magazine,
Sure.
Penthouse magazine, any of the adult-ish magazines, last time I checked, are not part of the curriculum at public schools in the top 10 cities in America. Last time I checked. Okay. So when you go on a stream of consciousness about a subject, I'm going to agree with you to a point, and I'll agree with you. I have seen some of those videos of parents that have come to schools and they've read parts of books and parts of the books that might be viewed as racy. I'm just trying to find a word that we can all kind of agree on. That's not the point, David. The point is
sexually graphic.
Okay,
sexually graphic.
Fair enough. So you're saying that those should be banned from schools? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So that's your opinion. If in your school district that's happening, then you show up. But I'm saying that if you're basing your argument on that which is sexually graphic should not be part of the curriculum, then I'm here to tell you you're going to be on a very slippery slope, because there'll be a lot of books, because the interpretation of what's sexually graphic has not been defined yet by a body that enough people...
Yes, it has.
Okay.
It sure has.
So then,
from Catcher in the Rye to To Kill a Mockingbird to 1984 by George Orwell.
So you're saying they should all be banned? They should all be banned from libraries?
No.
Why not? Why shouldn't they be banned?
Why shouldn't
they be banned then?
No.
Answer my question.
Why should examples of other?
Why should they not be?
Books that have gone through the phases of being banned, and we've come to an established idea that for elementary schools and for grade schools to have, graphic sex, where I couldn't even read you on the radio.
Name 10 high schools that you know, or grade schools that you know, that those books are being used as part of the curriculum in 10 schools. Can you name them? Yes or no?
Not in my area.
Yes or no? No, David. I don't do the perimeter. David,
the schools,
take a deep breath.
All around the country.
David,
just go on YouTube
take a deep breath.
School board meetings.
Take a deep breath.
I mean, they're everywhere. For God's sake.
So then, David, if that's where you stand on the issue, and you're entitled to stand there on that issue, I'm going to say this one last thing, and then we're going to go to the next caller.
Sure.
Then we need to ban the Bible from anything close to a school or a library.
Well, you can read the Bible on the air, and it's not going to offend anybody.
David, yes, really?
You couldn't read those. You couldn't read those books on the air.
Okay.
That's what you're talking about, restricting from the curriculum.
Here's what I've learned, David. This is what I've learned. Out of respect to you, one of the things that I've learned in my 61 years is, I am done trying to convince someone to think differently. I respect that that's how you think and how you see the world. I am not going to waste anybody's time, including yours, trying to change how you think about anything.
Well, you know what,
David, I'm not done. I'm not. No, you may not.
I called.
I said, David, you asked a question. David, stop. Listen, I'm not going to have a debate with you. You stated your point, and I respect it. That's it. I appreciate you calling in. Have a great Sunday.
I'm just telling you. I'm giving you a heads up.
There's nothing else to say. I got the heads up, so we're going to let you go. Have a good Sunday. What's the debate? I'm not going to try to convince him, because his goal is to try to change someone's mind. It's not to state a point that someone can tap into. Do we blow through the commercial? Oh, yeah, we did. All right, we're going to hit a quick commercial and we'll come back. 773-763-9278.
This is Kamal Murray. Check us out at www.excesstennis.org. Keep listening to the family meeting.
Itsashort.com. The website is itsashort.com, spelled ITSASHORT.com. We are the best designation on the internet for award-winning short film, video, and web series. Artists are from all over the world. They are award-winning from various festivals, but you can find us at info@itsashort.com, customer care at itsashort.com, and we'll get back to you straight away.
We do. We buy, we sell, we move, we store. Anything, anytime, anywhere. We do. The company that handles all your stuff. If you have anything that you want to do something with, please call us. We buy, sell, move, store, donate, discard. Anything, anytime, anywhere. eBay plus U-Haul equals we do. We are moving at the speed of life. Call Terry Calloway, 312-343-9973, or via email, contact him at terrycalloway58@gmail.com.
A single K plan is a 401k plan designed especially for business owners and immediate family, regardless if they are incorporated or not. Single Ks offer both employer and employee contributions, and in many cases have no setup fee or annual plan administrative charges. Single Ks are simple to administer with no government reporting required. Most importantly, this plan allows employees to access their savings via hardship withdrawals or loans. Visit our website at polarisadvice.com or call us about your business or organization's retirement plan at 312-951-2606 or email us at polaris@polarisadvice.com. That's 312-951-2606 or email us at polaris@polarisadvice.com. Polaris provides empowering advice for everyone.
Securities offered through Lion Street Financial LLC, member FINRA, and SIPC Investment Advisor Services offered through Lion Street Advisors LLC, registered investment advisors. Polaris Wealth Management and Lion Street Financial are not affiliated.
This is Matt Fisher. You can
Hi, this is Tommy Nelson. Visit me at A Custom Cabinet Design, Facebook.com. Welcome back to the family meeting.
We are back, you guys. And yeah, obviously, I love it when we get a little heated with someone calling in. I mean that in the most best ways. Listen, book bans is a conversation we're having right now, and different people have opinions on it, but there's some factual parts of it that we have to address. And that is, why is it happening? And why didn't it happen to... So the caller that called in, if that's the case, why didn't this person's and that personality's parents make the same argument when they were in school? They didn't make the same argument. And most of the curriculum that we see now that's being talked about is curriculum that was in place 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So in any event, let's go to my man Paul in Seattle. Hey, Paul, what is going on?
Hey, look at. Here's my thought. Woke is a personal awareness. Anti-woke is a political agenda. That's what we're talking about.
That's good.
That's a good point.
A political agenda that seeks to deprive some others, of their inalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Those that we are endowed by our Creator. That's the ones we choose, not the Creator that someone else assigns to us, along with the values and beliefs that go with that. If you look at the Declaration of Independence, it doesn't say. Actually, I'm having to use the words "our," but it says all men are created equal. They have the right, their Creator. And so it doesn't. While it speaks of all men, it doesn't say our Creator. It doesn't say that we necessarily have the same Creator. We can choose our own Creator and what values we take from that.
Yep.
And so this idea of the political agenda is to use the power of government to deprive others of their inalienable rights to believe what they want and to read what I want. The idea that
or not read what you don't want to read,
or not read. Yeah, you don't have to participate if you don't like something that you're being presented in your child's class. You don't have to participate, but you don't have the right to stop my child.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, check this out. My wife said something earlier today. All these folks are worried about what's going on with regard to books being banned and things that are, in our schools and libraries. They need to pay a little bit closer attention to what the hell their children are following and doing on social media. They want to really, ban something. That if they want to deal with their children being, harmed, or their children being, what's the word, Rick? Not trained, but indoctrinated, or whatever these other words are. Check out what they're doing on social media. I mean, if you want to have an immediate impact on their kids. But Paul, listen, man. As always, I wrote down what you said, because that's a really powerful way of looking at woke versus anti-woke. One is a political agenda, the other is a way of living.
Yeah,
wow.
That was great.
That's great, man. Thank you for calling in. I'm going to try to grab a few more people, because Tommy will be coming up shortly. But glad you're doing well, and good to hear from Paul as always. Let's see if we can catch Big Art real quickly. Sounds like he couldn't hear it. Can you hear us now, Big Art?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay.
I think the word you're looking for, they like to use the word groomed.
Grooming.
You're grooming our children.
That was a word.
Right.
That was a word. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So what's going on,
and,
man?
Well, what it is it's just people. A lot of people out there just have the need to hate for the sake of hate.
Yep.
They think they have magic in their voice and in their beliefs and in their thoughts that they can influence you to be that way.
Yeah.
And it's just not so. Not for a person who has learned, who has been educated, who has been exposed and traveled and seen other cultures, whether it be by living it, or just, I look at, one of my favorite shows is Wheel of Fortune, and they be giving away all those wonderful cruises and trips everywhere. And that's like, wow, boy, I would love to be, to be there, to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and these people live in their bubbles, Rich, and by the way, you're having a great show, very thought-provoking. It's just a very great show from all sides, the callers, everyone. And it's like, these people just really so satisfied with their circumstance, or they're regretting not doing more. I mean, I have my regrets too, but I've done some things.
Right.
And I know there's other people out there who have just, traveled the world.
Yep.
And God bless them that they would, have the motivation and the means to do that.
Yep.
And came home safely, because there's a lot of dangerous places out there,
Yeah.
But it's just a lack of exposure, really, man.
It's true.
It's really
true.
a lack of exposure.
Well,
and that's what it's all about. And what you mentioned about the internet, for all the Facebooks and Instagrams and everything on the internet that you can just Google and pull up, the balance of it is that you can expose yourself to just like books do, expose yourself to new worlds, use your imagination. These people out there have no imagination.
Yeah.
They just want things to stay the same, and they want to be in control the narrative, and it's just sad.
They're fragile.
Going down.
Their fragility.
They're fragile as hell.
Yeah, their fragility and their weakness and their fear, as Rick said, all rolled into one thing that's causing people to act out and try to control other. That's the irony of it all. They're trying to control other people's lives. Rick said during the break, you got one parent that's saying, you can't read this, you can't have this, you can't do this. Meanwhile, that literal action and thought process is causing other people to be deprived of something that they may want to do, may want to read, may want to see and hear.
And it might enhance their lives and open up a whole new experience and make their lives so much better down in the long run.
Yep.
And that includes education. A lot of people we're talking about here are not educated.
Without a doubt.
And I mean life educated and formally educated. They're just not. You can tell.
That's true.
You can tell by what their thoughts, where they speak. They're very inarticulate, just like a former president. It's just horrible. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
And they embrace that ignorance. They really do.
Because
they really do. I mean, what's going on down in Florida is ridiculous what DeSantis has done down there. These people want the freedom to restrict your freedom, to take away your freedom.
Isn't that
he brags that he did so much down in Florida, and he's the fighter against woke. And I was watching this week with George Stephanopoulos, and Donna Brazile was on there, and she said all DeSantis did. He said he's the most conservative candidate. No, she said he's the most freedom-denying, freedom-hating candidate. That's what that he did down in Florida. All the voter suppression, way back from 2000 when they got Bush at W in there.
Yep.
It's been going on. That's their strategy: keep people from voting.
Keep people from exercising their rights.
If they'd allow free elections down there, and that includes vote by mail, which is probably the easiest and most honest way to do it and fair way to do it, he wouldn't be governor.
That's true.
He wouldn't be governor without the voter pressure.
We're going to bounce back.
Let me give you my experience right quick. This will be real fast. In 1969, I integrated a school in Bridgeport that had never been integrated, and when I got there, I was a little bit behind. I think I told this story before. I was a little bit behind in my math and reading, but I caught up real fast, and I not only got myself exposed to going to school with Caucasian children, mostly Caucasian, they got exposed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up graduating the valedictorian of that elementary school. So it's like the other stuff that maybe had been taught them, I just changed the whole thing, not only for the students, but for the nuns there and everything.
Yeah.
It's about exposure, Rich.
Yes,
you got to be exposed to something different and something broader. Go to your next caller. Thanks for giving me a little time today. Have a great one.
Thanks, Big Art. Great point. I mean, I'm that kid too that was the one of few and exposed non-black children, white kids, to me. The kid where the chocolate didn't rub off. So that's true. Now it's time for the story. Let's go to Mary in Elk Grove. Hey, Mary, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. What's going on?
Initially I was going to call about the book bans, but something just popped into my head that with it being Pride Month, they weaponize religion, and they always do this for everything. They weaponize the religion. And I think everybody should go back and read Genesis again, because God himself, or their self, was the first they, them.
Yep.
They had no gender.
That's
okay?
right.
God has no gender. And if you read carefully, Adam and Eve were a bit, the pronouns were were interchangeable. They were used in different ways within Genesis.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying that the first non-binary people were in Genesis.
We're in that book that everybody that conversation wants to reference
that
as
they
their
want
stalwart.
to wave around
Yep.
and say, "Yep, you're going to shove this down your throat." And you might want to reread that.
One more time for the folks.
One more time, because there is some horrendous crap in that book.
There it is, Mary.
As far as banning books, what that gentleman was saying, I can guarantee that The Catcher in the Rye, To Kill a Mockingbird, and what was the other one, 1984, are not being taught in grammar school.
Yeah.
They are not.
Right.
It's just not even on their level, their reading level.
Especially 1984. I mean, that's a complicated book for somebody that's 70.
Oh my gosh, I read that in high school, and I had to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah. The irony of 1980 of that book is that a lot of what's in that book has come to fruition, unfortunately.
The whole Big Brother thing, yeah. And The Handmaid's Tales. I didn't read that book, but I want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, number one, those books are not in grammar schools. They might be, and I don't think that they would be in high school. And just let me preface this by saying, I went to all-girls Catholic high. I went to Catholic school my entire life. All-girls Catholic high school. When they found in grammar school, when they found out what was in "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret," it's in the school library. Okay, and we read it. But by the time my sister, who was just 3 years younger, it was off the shelf.
Yeah.
So if they're teaching, I mean, if we were allowed to read these books in Catholic school, To Kill a Mockingbird, 1984, and so on and so forth. No, I promise you the nuns would not have let that. There was educational value to these books, and there was nothing graphic in To Kill a Mockingbird.
No.
But here's the thing.
But To Kill a Mockingbird is really not about anything. That's about racism.
It is.
And so to not want that to be in our school system is because they don't want to talk about how our justice system was not just toward a black man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At its core, that's what that book's about.
What did who was that speaker at the inauguration?
Oh, the young woman that read the poem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
No, but she said something. One of her lines. Something about justice, and it is not always justice, or something like that. I digress.
That's all right.
Here's another thing. Joan Esposito, she has a show, and she brings on librarians, which are so informative. There is a system, folks. If you don't want your child reading certain books, you go in, you fill out a form, you say, "I do not want my child to read this book." The librarians know, they're flagged, and they say, "I'm sorry, you can't check this out. If you have any questions, go ask your parents."
Yep.
And that's that. They're not, but another thing that they said was this, as far as the LGBTQ, some of the books that are taken off the shelf in the library and either left on the tables or stuck in the wrong place, most commonly are books pertaining to young readers of the LGBT group, meaning they're going to read in a safe space, and they need that. Damn it! I mean, they need it. I hope I didn't get in trouble saying that.
I think
but
we're
they
okay
need
with.
that. Yeah, my mother, again, Irish immigrant, Catholic. I mean, the church was the word, whatever. She would go around, and the big thing was going to the garage sales.
Yep.
And she would come home with these books, and she'd give them to us.
Right.
And do you remember the book Jaws?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The first one with the shark and the naked lady swimming?
Yep.
What the heck was my mother thinking giving us that book? I mean, Mom, there's a naked lady on the front of the book.
Yeah.
But she didn't care because, she had her religion, but she also knew reading was important. Exposing your, knowledge is powerful. And she got us a subscription to Reader's Digest once, and I mean, some of those articles were terrible. And then she did the same for my children. I was just like, what is Grandma thinking?
Yeah.
But
Mary, girl, listen, we got to hit this break. I don't want to ever cut you off.
I'm sorry.
But
sorry.
No. Thank you so much for calling in, and I'm going to highlight something you said when we come back from the break. The number is, thanks for calling in, Mary. Have a good week.
Bye-bye, guys.
The number is 773-763-9278. We got to get to Tommy, but we're going to get this quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Gina Davis Morales. I'm with Save Our Southland, and keep listening to the family meeting.
A basic and essential part of any financial plan is savings. Most of whatever cash you have will be there because you put it there, not necessarily because of some fancy investment. Now with Save and Plan, Polaris has introduced a way for you to get empowering financial advice. Save and Plan is simple. Just sign up to save on a systematic monthly basis directly from your account and gain access to a planner and our planning services. Once you sign up to save, Polaris will help you develop a customized financial plan and give you a real person to speak with. Your dedicated planner is just an email or phone call away. Save and Plan offers empowering advice for everyone. Visit us at polarisadvice.com and call us today at 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. That's 312-951-2606 or email us at polarisadvice.com. Save and Plan, empowering advice for everyone.
Securities offered through Lion Street Financial LLC, member FINRA and SIPC Investment Advisor Services offered through Lion Street Advisors LLC, registered investment advisors. Polaris Wealth Management and Lion Street Financial are not affiliated.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they think you owe them money, they will take it. They can garnish your paycheck and seize your bank accounts too. So if you owe back taxes, call Covington Tax Solutions. They can save you thousands if you qualify. Call Covington Tax Solutions now for a free consultation. Call 872-257-4631. Call 872-257-4631.
Covington Tax Solutions.
Hey, Family Meeting cousins. As you know, we created a Patreon Family Meeting subscription and membership page to include you great listeners in our effort and give you a chance to very economically promote your business, organization, or local event. You can contribute as little as $5 per month to get your message out and support the Family Meeting as a viable voice. We know you appreciate our permanent interest dialogue, get up and dance playlist, and our great guests who stop by. So become a cousin and go to our website, tfmradioshow.com, and click the link.
Hey, this is Stephanie Miller. Be sure to tune into my show Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 a.m. But right now, keep listening to The Family Meeting on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT, AM and FM.
Hey guys, we're back. I want to thank my man Devin for keeping us on point today, and also my man Rick for being in studio with us. But right now, we've got to go to a gentleman who's been waiting, also known as Tommy. Hey, Tommy.
You know, I don't know how many times I have said that there are certain conversations that are not even worth having, and the reason why they're not worth having is because what will be known has clearly been shown. So, you know, let me just say, hey, Richard, you know, hey, Rick, hey to all of those in the listening audience. And I want to send a special shout out to my son. And as I said to him before, I clearly say to him, as I say to all that are listening right now, I hope you're listening very clearly. Knowledge is power. You don't have to believe anything that I am saying. The one thing that understanding gives you is the ability to weigh a different alternate against what you to believe to be true or false. So watch this. All you have to do to understand these times is to go and ask yourself a simple question and write down on a sheet of paper, what was the states that was involved on the north? What were the states that were involved on the south? Once you write all of that down, all the next thing you have to say to yourself and ask and write down on that paper is, what are the states that are involved in this Hatfields and McCoys that have now allowed all of us to be expendable at their cost? I don't understand why you would be chasing anything down a rabbit hole talking about a book or history, knowing that this country fought for liberty and justice. I do not understand why white people do not understand a simple narrative. Black people could not be where they are right now today in this country if it had not been for moral-minded white people who understood that to take away a person's human rights and to treat them the exact way that we were being treated was immoral and wrong. And now, here we are at the precipice of this clear understanding. What has happened in this country? And y'all sitting up here talking about a history book and just sit back talking about Happy Memorial Day? The soldiers should be turning over in their graves. They went supposedly and fought against fascism. And now you're going to sit here and turn around and try to explain and walk around and act like it is normal what has happened in the United States of America in this generation's time. That the Capitol was attacked and that the individuals who had did it are now in position to do it again. And you want to talk to me about a book. You want to act like and you don't understand a clear narrative of what is going on in our country as we close right now. I tell you what you better start understanding. Because anytime, once again, when I say white people, this is with love. This is not with any prejudice, with any malice. Do you not understand that sitting back and looking at it, the fact that a right was taken away from a human being is now why the rights are being taken away from all of us? Do you not recognize and understand a simple narrative that we as a country, despite our indifferences, our ethnicities and stuff, have said to ourselves that it does not even make sense to have common sense gun laws when our kids are being killed by military-style weapons? Keep listening to the family meeting. You need a Tommy bobblehead. Damn! Goodbye!
Yes, as we always say, you've got to let him get it out here, or he might creep into your neighborhood and start throwing rocks. Thanks, Tommy, as always. Man, listen, I always look at our show and think, what did we get accomplished? And I hope that if anything we got accomplished, and that was to allow our listeners, our great followers of the family meeting, but also the greater WCPT, the opportunity to call in and to chat with us and to speak your truth, wherever that truth may land, and hopefully we can have, to Mary's point, an opportunity to kind of move the conversation forward. I have to give a little bit of a shout out. My sister and brother-in-law, Linda and Jim Harris, are having their 52nd anniversary tomorrow, Rick. 52nd anniversary. How about that? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
That's definitely worth something to celebrate.
Absolutely. I'm so happy for them and proud of them. They've been an example of just a great couple and just, you know, they're my hero and shero for a number of years. So yeah, they have their 52nd tomorrow. So shout out to them. I don't know if they're listening or not, but it's out there. Hey, listen, man, you know, we got some issues that people are running from. Others are standing up to fight for and certainly to fight against. And I'm certainly one of those people. And I know you are, Rick, and I know Devin is as well. But, you know, we have, to Tommy's point, all this craziness that's happened. We could go to January 6th. And here we are fighting over what books should be in schools. When in fact, to your point, if you're going to if one parent has the ability to go to a school system and tell that school system, I don't want this book in the school because my child is being affected by it, that's your own personal, and then to be able to have the power to get that school system to say, yeah, we're going to follow what you're suggesting, that's an incredibly slippery slope.
It is.
And, you know, like you said a moment ago about, you know, not canceling, but, you know, the tit for tat in terms of if you ban this one, you got to ban that one. That's the fight right now, but it's a slippery slope, no matter how you look at it.
Yep. It absolutely is. And as I had said to you on the break, I'm not one to necessarily subscribe tit for tat, because it is a slippery slope. But
how else are we going to get their attention?
I don't know how else we get their attention.
Yeah.
And you know, but it's absolutely right. If you wanna take a look at some violent reading.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of the books that are still on the shelves in schools that would fit into the category of the same logic that they're using to say, well, we have to eliminate these. Well, if that's the logic, if that's the case point, then that can be applied to a number of other books. And then at the top of the list is the Bible.
Right.
The very top of the list is the Bible. And Mary so eloquently pointed out, you know, that's what happens sometimes when there's not education, when there's dogma. And that is, you have a group of people who think that their anger and their frustration and their bias should be for everyone. Because if not, their freedoms are being, trampled on. Well, in fact, your plight to have your freedom be exercised is taking away someone else's freedom.
That's right.
So that then becomes anarchy, because now that person's willingness to push away someone else's freedoms to protect their own out of fear, to one was posted by one of our friends, Stephanie, on YouTube, is actually just a way of maintaining power. It has nothing to do with, better education or better knowledge or information. It's about maintaining and consolidating power. So I think that, right now the fight is, well, if you're going to take this one, you got to take this one, or we're going to use this argument point to justify where we're going to come back and take away the book that you say is the almighty book.
Right.
And here we are.
And, your rights and freedoms should not infringe on my rights and freedoms.
And that's what's happening right now.
Yes, it is.
That's at the tip of the spear of book banning. Is it, and any of these other quote unquote bans, is it's infringing your attempt to exercise your freedom is infringing on someone else's freedom. So for that same person to then say they're a constitutionalist and that, we have to live by what our founding fathers, brought us here for, well, then you actually don't understand what's in the Constitution. You actually don't understand what the country was really, from what we've been led to believe all these decades and centuries, was founded on. It started, for those who are better at history than I am, it started on the concept of religious freedom.
Right.
If you're the religion that we want you to be, seemingly now.
It depends which religion you're talking about.
Right. If you're of this religion now, then you can have the freedoms that we want to then laud over everybody else. And that to me right now is the we're at that tipping point in some ways of being faced with a certain amount of anarchy and chaos. And that's probably my biggest two concerns, and not fears, but my biggest two concerns are that being a direction that we go, and living in a perpetual state of fear,
right,
where people are acting on those fears, and that those acting on those fears is then allowing people to do some pretty crazy stuff to get their way. And Eric's phrase of mob mentality or gang mentality is growing every day that we look at it. So, Rick, it's been great having
Richard,
you here on the show today.
Thank you so much.
It's been great having my man Devin keeping us from, crashing into the wall. But, the great thing about where we are and having, as I said a moment ago, this show and having a station is that we do, I think at the end of the day, we've been able to give people an opportunity and an outlet to call in, because what you see, I believe, what we see with the people that call into any of our shows is that folks have something to say.
Yep.
And that's our opportunity is to provide them with a venue to be able to do that. So I always say that at the end of the show when I'm hosting, because I don't take that lightly. So listen, y'all, we're getting close to wrapping up. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank Rick for being in studio with us today. I want to thank my man Devin. And I saw you giving hand signals to Paul. Is it Paul back there earlier? Huh?
Yeah, go catch your train.
Oh, okay. You wanted to make sure you got out of here on time. Well, speaking of getting out of here on time, listen, thank you for listening to the family meeting. We're going to be back next week. I want to thank you all for listening to us, watching us on YouTube, and however you found us today. Call in if you didn't get a chance to call in today. Give us a call next week at 773-763-9278. We are out.
The preceding program, The Family Meeting, is sponsored by the Polaris Insurance Agency and Eric Grant, and to the extent of its guests, the views and opinions reflected do not necessarily express the views and opinions of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
NBC News Radio, I'm Chris Coraggio. A sonic boom was heard over the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. today as officials scrambled fighter jets when a small aircraft violated U.S. airspace. FAA authorities say the Cessna crashed into a mountain area of southwest Virginia. Officials were concerned about the aircraft, which was unresponsive and flying in a strange path over the D.C. area. The federal grand jury investigating former President Trump's handling of classified documents is expected to meet this week. According to NBC News, activity has slowed in recent weeks following months of prosecutors working for special counsel Jack Smith presenting evidence and witness testimony. It's unknown if an indictment is being prepared, which would be the first time a former president has been charged with a federal crime. The chair of the U.S. House Intelligence Committee says Ukraine is prepared for an upcoming counteroffensive.
President Zelensky has made a great case that this is the fight